Welcome, everyone. This is the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, and every week we bring you stories that we hope will inspire you to see the world in new ways. We are part of Rotary International, 1.2 million members and 36,000 clubs around the world. And we take a particular interest in all things that allow us to improve our communities, whether those communities are local, global, or digital. And so we hope that you will walk away today with some ideas about how that can be a part of service above self, Rotary's motto for you as well. Our speaker today is Anne Seubert, and she is in Germany. She has this very impressive resume that I hope you read on the way to this video in our meeting page. She has done so many different things that I'm actually hesitant to try to list them, and I'll allow you to just kind of speak to the ones that you think are most relevant. But it is such an honor to have you here to talk about communities, building communities, the power of communities, and all things in that realm. And we welcome and hand it over to you.
Wow, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this topic, community, I'm so happy to talk to you and with you actually about this, as I'm eager to learn as much as possible in the next few minutes, to be honest to you, and not to teach you anything. Thank you so much, Rushton, actually, for coaching me along the way. So I really hope that technically and language related, everything works out, because my mother tongue is not English, but German, as you can imagine. I'm based in Berlin, and I'm super happy to get the chance to talk with you about community as a service that couldn't be more relevant, I think, as of today. I truly believe actually that we can be happy, the best version of ourselves, resilient when facing a crisis like nowadays a pandemic, or giving as much as possible as when we are connected, feeling connected within a community. This special type of relationship. And while we tend to look for freedom, for individual choices, for our very own way, I think we are well advised to build our communities for ourselves and for those around us. For me, this asks for a special mindset, a mindset I want to dive in today with you, being well aware that you, being from a different culture, you might have different concepts and different experiences with communities. That's why I also sent those questions, and I would love to discuss with you as much as possible today, as I said, and learn as much as possible. And I try to keep it short. As Rushton said, I do have a portfolio CV, as it is called here in Germany. I'm a cultural scientist. I have my own company called Brands and Places, where I coach organizations and companies on how to build their communities. And I'm a program director of Common Purpose Germany, a nonprofit organization that fosters leadership within organizations. I also used to be community and marketing director with Yelp when they came to Europe. And as you can imagine, and I love speaking, mentoring, and incubating those topics all around the place. Because, as I said, I do believe in this in this community of people, and I believe the best we can do is the best we can do. We have to do it. And the question is only like, which formats do we choose? Which values do we choose to have in common? And what kind of communities do foster our growth? And I love to do my work along questions. And I brought 5 questions with me today to give us kind of a road through this huge topic of community. but I can only ask for more questions actually to ask in the Q&A afterwards. So the first 5 questions, as I call them, is what makes a community and how to tell it is actually a community and not just a group of people. What have places, events, and communities in common? And I'll tell you when we come to that why this is an important question here for me. Why investing in community building is so important right now for us as individuals, but also for us as a society, for us as human beings, and how to foster engagement and grow your community once you've built it. And then for the Q&A part, I think the question was, what makes our community actually our service? And how do we serve other people with our community? So let's start with the first question, what makes actually a community? And as I said, and maybe you have thought about it in advance, a community is not just a group of people. A shared hashtag is not a community because both of you smoke or love vodka. That doesn't make you a community. A community, at least how I use the term, is a group of people that is pursuing a common goal, that is cultivating common interests, committed to common values. At least that's what Wikipedia says. And I'd like to add that is the people you enjoy spending time with, right? The people you feel better with than without you. And why is it? It's because they make you feel connected, and they make you feel connected as the person who you truly are. Like really yourself. It's not what you look like, but what you feel you are and what you want to be acknowledged for. The great Brené Brown keeps sharing that connection is the energy that is created between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. And I think it's really important to be aware of this connection part and think about what it needs to be connected. When we talk that people need to be seen to feel connected, that says it needs our awareness, our listening, our curiosity, asking questions, spending time with, really listening, really sharing something together, spending energy. It's not something that just happens. It's something you really have to commit to. It needs some invest. And although I know we're in the presentation mode right now, I'd like to start a little experiment, if I'm allowed to. And let us really start here and now with this connection part and get into it and boost each other by giving everyone here in the room the good feeling of being connected with us here. And as we are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, maybe that's possible to really look around who's in the room and share a compliment to someone in the room for something you've noticed today, with the other one, something you're grateful for, something you noticed from the other person. Is this possible?
Would you like us to speak up? Happy to do so.
Yes, yes, please.
So I'll add that, that in thinking about your definition of community, one of the things that's very important to me is innovative service, the ability to do something that is interesting and sustainable rather than simply charitable, though I value charity as well. And so, for example, one of the people in the recording today is Melanie, and Melanie is a part of Quinny. Quinny is a really interesting organization doing great work, right? And so when I when I learn about the things that they're doing and how it inspired one of our members, Chris Major, to get involved in terms of her chess program, that flexibility to bring people in is something I'm quite excited about. So I'm excited about her being here and her work and that opportunity. So there's my contribution to the idea.
Did you see how you made her smile?
Well, if I can share, I'm a wordsmith. I love etymology and the study of words. So when you asked what does community mean, I looked at the root word, and it's from the Old French commune, which is common or general or free or open or public, which modern French is C-O-M-M-U-N, the other was C-O-M-U-N, and Latin communis, communis, which is in common, public, and shared by all. The other part, which is munia, communia, is duties and public duties and functions. So community is a group that comes together to perform duties and functions, perhaps.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. That reminds me that comer, the Spanish word for eating, actually does have the same root in it. So it's a social act.
Go ahead, Rory.
Yeah, Rory. Rory, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm never sure because my feed always goes out for about 30 seconds and I come back. Yeah, what I see here in our community is, if you think about it, we have 2 people from California, 1 from Michigan, if math's bad, it's, my fault. 1 from Texas and 1 from across the pond. Now, at other times, people from neighboring states would be shooting at each other, not to mention our unfortunate history of our countries. But here we've got people from multiple backgrounds who are talking about an interesting problem. It's a definite sense of community.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. I brought you some examples of communities I worked with along my way. And one are the Yelp elites. When they came to Europe, a community I learned a lot from, exploring the worlds together and sharing their findings. Another community talking patients, actually. I had the honor to create a peer support platform for people living with diabetes. I'm a diabetic myself for almost 40 years now, and we created an online platform with check-in open 24/7. Created section for content, which was user-created content, a community where people could find someone to talk to all day, and also some coaching videos where they would learn about nutrition, about how to deal with a chronic disease. And it was a pleasure to see how people could get empowered by such a, as you put it, this sense of community and this ownership they learned along the way. Another community I dived into was the Common Purpose one, dedicated to leadership. And as I explained in the intro, it's a non-profit organization founded already in '89 that develops leaders who can cross boundaries all around the world, actually, from Chicago to Hong Kong. And this transformative experiences of community, when learning you're not alone with your mindset, when seeing examples of people courageous and collaborative, you're getting so much confidence and you're getting so much power that it serves the purpose you're sharing, as Rushton said. but still the question is like, what makes a community and community? And what we found along the way, one of the tests actually you have to tell whether it is a community and how strong this community is. And you might want to ask for yourself and your or our, as I'd love to say, Rotarian community. This test goes like this: if a person who's a member in the same community as me, but the two of us have never met, contacts me and asks for my help, how likely am I to help her or him? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, that happens to me all the time when Rotary, when I've done programming.
Right.
And in particular, we had an art auction. And it went really well based on how it was executed, but people didn't buy the art. So therefore, it wasn't a financial success. However, I really enjoyed the crew. I thought they did a very professional job. They were very responsive. And when they asked me for referrals, other Rotary clubs called me, either email or phone call. How were they to work with? I would sing their praises. And I'd never met the other people before that I'd worked with, except for the person who showed up. And I never met the Rotarian. And that helped them to develop their own approach to a fundraiser.
I love that. Thanks so for sharing. And how did it make you feel?
Oh, it made me feel great because they asked for an opinion and I was able to give it to them. And it was from somebody that they felt they could trust because of the sense of community as a Rotarian.
Yeah. It's a matter of trust, and it's a matter of, I really like the role you're given, right? You can give something.
Yeah, you're a service.
And you're a service, exactly.
Yeah, you're doing a function for the common good.
Thank you so much for passing the test. Let's with the time and what have places, events, and communities in common? That might be a strange question to read at first, but my guess is that community events and places actually are growing into our spaces for encounter, for providing space for multi-dimensional platforms are emerging. What do I mean? When we enter a community, we are looking for connection. We want to encounter like-minded people. We want to connect. We need this space created by this community. And it's the same actually with events where we are going to, conferences, for example, or places we suppose to meet those kind of people. But with the world actually driving more and more digital, virtual, those places are becoming less important. We've seen it with the pandemic where we couldn't go to places actually, or couldn't attend events. Communities did get even more important. And that's one of the reasons I think, that makes communities more and more important nowadays. When we talk community, we have to talk community building, and there's a lot of how-tos around actually. I do love to share this one. It's a canvas created by Fabian Fortmüller and his team, which is kind of a framework that helps build stronger communities and make our society a bit more connected, I like to call it. And they identified 3 parts to work on and to build upon. The bluish one is the identity part with the purpose and the identity and the values and some kind of success definition, like what it is for actually, the why you would love to build this community. The reddish one is the structural part, like what kind of roles, rules, and experiences do you want to create? Do you want your members to experience within your community, for example? And the greenish one is the governance part, the communication part, like How do we make decisions within our community? What are the channels we are communicating on? Like here we're meeting on Zoom, for example. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of the third places. And I think community is such a third place where we feel at home, where we are who we are, where we're really getting informal, where we feel at home in a moment, where we meet our friends and people we like to enjoy time with. And the digital world, we are experiencing this right now, makes it easier for the special interest niches, also for minorities, for weirdos to find like-minded people. They might not live around the corner, but digitally we can meet them easier and build our online and digital communities. And this is where I think we have to think in platforms, a third place that is providing a space for our community to grow, for digital events to happen, for us to meet, to communicate, to connect. Those platforms can have different kind of formats, and we have to build upon the needs of our communities and the people we want to have within our communities. But those platforms are getting more and more important, and we're learning just right now a lot about the Metaverse, right, Russian? We've been talking about that one as well. And I love to discuss later on maybe a bit what it means actually in those virtual spaces to create an intimacy, to create really space for connection. But before we come to that one, let us talk a little bit why now is a really important time to invest in community building, the third of the questions. And as I said earlier on, the pandemic, right, told us what we miss when staying at home, when working from home, when meeting other people becomes a risk. But I think even before the pandemic and without the virus turning people actually into a risk, our relationships and the way we engage with groups changed. Our isolation grew, and our lust for learning and for talking to people and really connecting with people grew as well. And I like to just have a spotlight on this learning, and the innovation potential I see in communities, and when you gather the right people around you, and why that makes you more resilient for a future we don't know that much about as we love to. Heather McGowan, I don't know if you're familiar with her, she's a speaker and author focusing on the future of work, and for her the future of work is learning. And she's talking the human capital era, coming from a shareholder value era and turning now into a human capital era where the community value becomes a goal, the customer value becomes a goal, and investor value is just a byproduct. And she's really interesting to follow. I can only recommend. Another one, another topic that is really important here to shine a light on is the isolation part, right? In Bowling Alone, the Arthur Putnam reports on America's declining participation in membership organizations of all kinds, including churches, unions, volunteer groups. And this withdrawal coincided with a growing sense of isolation, not only in the past 2 years, but he's going with his studies back in 1985, actually, where Americans reported having an average, oh, I'm losing my slide, right? Sorry. Yeah, in 1995, the Americans reported having an average of, let me check, 2.95 close friends. And by 2004, that number dropped 2.8. And during the same period, the number of Americans who reported having no close friends outside the family rose from 36 to 53%. And I think although we do know, or we do not yet know, the impact of the COVID and measures like quarantine, it's hard to imagine that existing will lead to improvements here. But this was really shocking data for me, actually, to see this decline that much. I don't know how you feel about it, but I mean, it's so easy talking isolation, and yeah, lots of people feel isolated and depressed, but when you see it backed up with data as such, for me, that was like huge. So building communities becomes a service. Sharing communities where people can become a member of and feel connected, actually. But how to foster engagement and grow your tribe once you've built it? There are several best practices, methods, things we can think of, and I just want to share some of them with you. Having a shared mission based on the values, having common rules and a code of conduct so that people feel safe within the community, having rituals that makes it easy to get immersed, having a clear outline, what makes you a member of this community and how does it feel to be inside, having a platform where to gather a clear address, so-called, like how to reach the other people, make it easy to recognize each other by features, by signs. And of course, having a several kind of language you're sharing your stories with makes it definitely easier. And I'd like to also make you aware of Nick de Wild, because he created a kind of a guide for community builders creating impactful organizations, and how this circle, this journey of a member could be filled with interactions and with several steps from becoming a new member, and then growing your community, and then have your members taking several roles, several kinds of interaction between the members, and what is actually the value for each member to be part of the community, and thus making it more and more attractive for other people to ask for membership, actually. And thus, I'd like to come to the fifth of those first 5 questions, as I call them. What makes your community your service, and our community our service? And I'm, as I said, happy to dig into the Q&A and discussion part now with you. As a starter, I already put on this last slide things like connection and shared values, a trusted support network, but I'm happy to hear how you feel about this. And with this, I'd like to say thank you for your attention, for listening to me, and for already discussing some of the points. Thank you so much. And let's gather around our digital campfire around here. And I'll stop this presentation mode.
Excellent, Anne. Thank you very much. What we will do is we are going to move the Q&A into our post-recording piece as we are about out of time. But for all of you who have joined us from other Rotary clubs, we hope you will tell us you are here. There is an attendance form just slightly down the page, and by filling that out properly, you'll get an email generated, which will allow you to pass that along to your club secretary and make up a miss. If you are joining us but are not Rotarians, then by all means, let us know you're here just so we have a sense of that. We want to understand the community that we are reaching as a part of the programs that we do. A little farther down the page, you will see our discussion section, discuss. And in that space, you can leave comments that you have about what you've heard in this, as well as anything else you find in the meeting. And you can reply to other people's comments as well. We invite you to engage in our community in that way. And so with that, we will finish things off and then continue our conversation following stopping the recording, because that's what we get to do. We get to talk to our speakers in that way, and we're excited to do so. So for all of you who have joined us, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you again soon.